How's it going, Critter Family? I hope you all are doing well. Somebody brought up a great point from the channel about how using prong collars and shock collars and the combination of the two and all these multitudes of collars on a dog. I mean, you know, how many collars do you need on a dog? I mean, like, how many collars do you need on a dog to stink and train it? I don't care if it's for bite work or not, you know, what if you need the multitude of, if you need more than one collar, let alone a training collar on your dog, you're doing something wrong. And it's not the dog, it's you. So it's very similar to when you're using a bit with horses. Now the first thing I noticed is, good Lord, look at all these wrinkles. This bit is so tight on this horse. You know, apparently, I haven't been around, you know, horses when I was young, but a lot of old timers, they'll say that, you know, you want to see at least 3 wrinkles. That means the bit's right. You know, this bit is so tight. You don't need to see any wrinkles. First off, you know, anyone who's watched me for any little bit knows I do not agree with bits of any type. But if you are going to use one, there are such a thing as rubber bits, which are, you know, made of a soft, pliable, like this, you know, soft, pliable rubber. You know, a lot of people, you know, use those in place of something metal or iron or something. So if you are going to use one, then, I mean, you do whatever you want, but there's that. There's the option of using something that is rubber, you know, much like a dog Kong toy, you know, much easier on the mouth. And of course with that, that's not going to solve your problem. You still have to know how to have timing and feel and use minimal pressure on your horse, just like the dogs. So we're going to go over the different types of bits people might use and the excuses that go along with them, much like we will go over the collars with dogs. So I guess we'll start with the dogs, you know, because it's a shorter list. But so if you walk a dog and a dog pulls on a harness, you know, just a regular harness, regardless of whatever types of harnesses there are. So say you're walking your dog on a regular harness, okay? This is like a front clip. This is like a no pull specifically made. So you're just walking your dog on a regular, you know, an X or Y harness or just one of these guys. And your dog pulls. Okay, so then we go to the front clip harness. This one is called an easy walk, and it works because you clip in the front of the harness, and when the dog pulls, it turns them around, or so it claims. I don't like this type of harness, this design, or other similar harnesses that you see, or similar harnesses like this, because, you know, this one will really dig into the like the lower part of the throat, I guess the trachea. I guess the esophagus is a little bit lower down, but into the throat, into the trachea, it makes it harder for them to breathe. You can carry his little ball there, but this turns the dog around. And so if people have a dog that pulls, they'll do this. The other reason why I don't like this is because it restricts the shoulders. So every type of training, you know, quote unquote training tool you have works by a specific design, and it's made to work to get results. But how you get those results is very important. So if people have a dog that pulls in a regular harness, then they go to an easy walk, a no pull harness. You know, they have many different types. You can also clip this from the front, but this restricts the shoulders from the dog getting their full forward movement. You also have harnesses like this, where it tightens behind the dog's front legs. So maybe one of those doesn't work, but this one, when the leash goes here and the dog pulls, this tightens like a martingale type material, and it tightens around their front legs and makes them feel, supposedly, like their front legs are going off the ground. So that's the squeezing pressure. If those don't work, you know, which a lot of people don't even go for those types, they go straight from the harness to, you know, slip lead or a slip collar. They'll go from the harness, the no-pull harness, to maybe the gentle leader, which is a head halter, which is also, you know, the next step up. You know, maybe they started in a flat buckle collar and then they go to a martingale, which I would be fine with. I don't like the chain because, you know, metal is not, I don't like metal around an animal's face like this, or, you know, part of the reason why I don't like bits in an animal's mouth, but we'll get to that in a moment. So you go from, say, one of these guys to the next step up, the harness or the head halter. That doesn't work. Then you go to some kind of a slip collar. This is a choke chain. This is a choke collar or a slip collar. They call it dominant dog collar, which is just a gimmick. Don't believe that. It's just a dog collar. If that doesn't work, then we might go to the star mark collar, which is basically the plastic version of a prong collar. It may seem like it's just plastic, but trust me, this hurts. I almost wonder if it's more, sharp and scratchy than the prong collar, because a lot of times they're rounded at the tip. This is very sharp. But either way, they go from this to the prong collar. And then if that doesn't work, then we go to multiple collars. Then we go to a shock collar, or we'll go to a shock and a prong, and have a choke chain as a backup, because why not? Or a regular flat buckle collar. I mean, all this happens because people, much like with horses, they say, oh, well, the dog doesn't work in the flat buckle collar doesn't work for my dog. So a lot of people will say like, oh, the harness makes my dog pull. Okay, so we got to go to a collar. Okay, well, the collar, a regular flat buckle collar, my dog still pulls in it. So we got to go to a choke chain. My dog still pulls in that. So we got to go bigger to maybe a prong collar or a star mark collar. If that still doesn't help, then we'll use, a combination of aversive tools, of a prong collar and a shock collar, and use them at the same time, and use some kind of a slip lead as a backup, or we'll use the prong collar and a slip lead, or a choke collar, as a backup, because God forbid this metal thing breaks apart. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, this dog's got 4 tools on. Tools. It's got a harness, all he needs. Flat buckle collar, great for identification tags. Doesn't need the prong collar, doesn't need the shock collar. When people say, oh no, my dog needs this, my dog needs that tool, they need this tool, they need the e-collar. They don't. You as the human needs the e-collar. You as the human needs these extra tools to get control of your dog, because you don't know how to work without the tools. You're relying on the tools to do the work, to force your dog, that's why it's called force training. You force your dog to comply. With a harness, a regular back clip harness that allows freedom of the shoulders, you can't do that. And it doesn't promote the dog pulling. It just doesn't cause pain to stop them from pulling. I mean, a lot of dogs, even though they're pulling, and this is kind of high up in the neck, and they're choking and they can't breathe, it's called opposition reflex. They just pull because they think they're trying to get away from it. There's a draw. There's a reason why they do what they do. But that's still no excuse. If I can teach a dog with a back clip harness that pulls like a freight train, and I don't ever have to like pop them or correct them, or even a lot of times, use treats. I mean, I will use treats if it's beneficial for the dog, but a lot of times I just use, the pressure and release game. And we just stop and move forward, and their forward movement and getting to sniff is their reward. So moving on to horses. If you're going to be using a bit, there are bitless options. So if we go down, this here shows the severity of the pain of the bit. So when people say, oh, my horse needs a bigger bit, he needs, he doesn't work in a snaffle, he doesn't work in a rubber bit or a soft kind bit or whatever bit, he needs a bigger one. No, you need a bigger one to control your horse, because you don't know anything else and you rely on force. So they have I think they have, this is the severity if you want to read through these. I don't know what half of them look like, but I know, this is a rubber bit. We move down to, oh gosh, this is one of the most severe, they say, which is a leverage action bit. So this is a chain. This goes on the horse's tongue and lays across the gums. And we have these long shanks, and the reins would connect here. And this pulls and multiplies the pain and leverage you have pulling down on the horse's jaw. This horse still, I know there's contact on the bit, but we have some wrinkles. I don't like that. Just very tight bit. This is called an S leverage bit, or a leverage action. God, the S leverage bit is the worst of the worst. So we have not only what under here is called a curb chain, goes under the chin. So as this is pulled, this is loose right now. There's no action going to it. As the rein tightens and this bit is pulled this way, it applies pressure onto the jaw and the tongue of the horse, which also pulls up on this little chain, so it crushes the chin. This tightens under the chin, under the jaw, and this crushes the top of it. And on top of all that, this can also pull, part of this. I mean, this is pulled so high back, it looks like this is too low on the horse's nose. But this will pull on the back of the horse's head. So this looks like a loose rein. This one's starting to get contact. This is a regular joint. Again, I don't like snaffle bits. This is a type of snaffle bit. This is, God, just anytime you see any kind of swiveling where this can move, openly, you can see that it swivels. It's not a fixed piece. You get a lot more leverage, which is why the Tom Thumb bit is horrible, because it's basically a leverage bit that levers, that you can slide. So this not only either digs into the horse's tongue, or when you pull on it, it digs into the roof of the mouth. People will put pieces of a piece of like a metal spinny mabobber on here, and they claim that the horse can play with it because they like to play with their bit. They don't play with the bit. They're trying to get it out of their mouth because it hurts. If you believe that, you're just a dummy. Like Rick Gore says, you're a dummy. I've heard stories where horse. I mean, I've been riding with people who had a horse that would just like play with it a lot. You could hear him chomping. You could hear them making this ringing noise because they were trying to get the bit out of their mouth, and maybe if they're so dead broke to it that they do play with it. I don't know, but really all it does is just it's a ploy to get you to buy it, and also it just applies more pressure to the roof of the horse's mouth. I mean, some horses will figure out how to spin it so hard within their mouth that it just makes a ringing noise, like a ring, and then they just keep doing it over and over. The other reason why I don't like this swivel is because you can slide this one way and get more pressure, and slide this another way and get more pressure. So it's not just the even amount. You can torque in different directions. This is a loose ring. This is a D-ring snaffle. I mean, so it shows all the different types of snaffles. I don't like any bits. If you're going to ride in one, then I always recommend, the softest that you can. If you are going to ride in one, here's a rubber one. There's also bitless. So this is called a Hackamore, a traditional Hackamore. There's a difference between a Hackamore and a mechanical Hackamore. So we're going to go over just the traditional Hackamore. This is called a Boselle, which is made out of rawhide. Old school, traditional, I think, maybe Western, maybe, native type tool. And this is the hanger, and this goes under the throat latch to keep it all attached. And then you tie your reins to it. So this person is using, rope reins. And so this, you can use this. I would rather this than a bit, but this can still be hard. It can be stiff. It can rub the nose hair. This one here looks like it's, braided rope, which is a better option, which is great. These are entirely bitless, and they even have bitless reins too. But these don't use a bit. You can still, if you know how to gain control of your horse, one hand at a time and one rein stop and all this and that. But this is a mechanical Hackamore. And the difference between this and the other is that you have leverage, you have metal, you have what looks like a lot of wrinkling, of this horse, in their mouth, and they're just uncomfortable, or their nostrils are flaring. You have a lot of leverage. This is not connected to anything in the mouth, but this, you pull down on this, it tightens under the jaw, much like the curb chain, and it's going to pull this, the head stall against, or this part, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, against the back of the horse's neck, on the pole, and they have a lot of nerve endings there. This is another mechanical Hackamore, same thing. Got a little ear covers. It looks like they're a show person. This one already has contact on it a little bit. But the longer and the more curved you have, the more leverage you have. This is a huge... It's people will say, oh, it's a Hackamore. I ride in a Hackamore, so I'm not hurting my horse. But this is just as bad as a bit, in my opinion. You're not hurting the teeth or the gums or the jaw, but you're crushing under the chin. You have these extremely long shanks. So this could be like, say, 10 pounds of pressure, that's pulling on the back of their head, squeezing their nose and their jaw and just rubbing. And this is a mechanical Hackamore. This is it looks like a bitless bridle or a regular Hackamore where they have, they have ropes underneath. I don't like that they do have the ropes that tighten under the chin. I'd rather just have, like they say, 1 for 1. This, you pull 1 pound of pressure, you get it on the top of the nose. There's no squeezing action. But this one is still better than, I would say, this option with a chain under their chin. But you still get, a bit of leverage, but there's the ropes. It's not the leverage of metal. You know, if you have light hands, then great. You know, but even if you have light hands on, this is like an S curve. You know, they make it look all cute and cool, but this is an extreme amount of pressure that can be applied on this horse, because you can really, if this here curves all the way over here, this is just squeezing, and although it's really padded, it's still pulling on the pole, it's still crushing its face. You know, even if it's padded, it's leather, you know, it can only be so soft. So when people talk about, you know, oh, my horse doesn't work in a snaffle bit, you know, I need to put him in a leverage bit. You know, we have 2 bits in here, or we have, you know, 2 bits of leverage. So we have the snaffle. God, look at this horse. We have so many wrinkles, tight snaffle, pulling on the back of the head, as well as we have this kind of mechanical Hackamore leverage that also squeezes this under the jaw. I mean, this horse is foaming. Even with, you know, this is one of those little fancy doohickeys, you know, the horse is flaring their nostrils, eyes are wide open, they're opening their mouth, you know, crushing the tongue. They have, you know, gag bits and you know, snaffle bits and all this. A gag bit means that you're gagging the horse. I don't think this is one, but when you pull, and it brings the tongue back into the back of the mouth. It literally gags the horse by the way it works. It pulls on the back of the head, and it gags the tongue into the horse's mouth. Here's another piece of metal, the mouthpiece. This goes into the roof of the mouth. You know, the long shanks pull on it. It has a chain under the chin. I mean, when people say, my horse needs a big bit, horses do not need any bit. They've been perfectly well ridden for hundreds of years, you know, without any of this. This one doesn't even have the top of the head. It just crushes the jaw and just pulls. I mean, this doesn't lie. The horses don't lie. Little these like little, they say fancy things. I mean, you know, chains, and this is like one of those little spinny bombs or something, you know, flashy. It's just, they have some made out of barbed wire. This one looks like there's some kind of point to it. I mean, this will just run up into the horse's mouth or gag it and pull back on it. Your horse does not need, I mean, why do so many people have to like force it in their horse's mouth, huh? The horse does not need a bit. They don't need a, you know, this looks like a really soft, you know, it's a rubber bit. It looks like the soft rubber Kong material, you know, for dogs. But when people say, you know, oh, my horse doesn't work in this, my horse needs a bigger bit. No, you need the bigger bit. Oh, look, somebody even went and put some kind of metal on here. It looks like they wrapped it, oh, lovely, with metal inserts. So I guess this is what a loose snaffle is. So I don't know if that's metal or not. It doesn't matter, but your horse doesn't need a bigger bit. You need to learn how to ride your horse or work with your dog without relying on pain compliance. It's even worse when people put a nose band across here. And it's all the more and it's even worse when people put a nose band across the horse's mouth, locking the bit in place. So the horse cannot open their mouth. They cannot try to move the bit around to get more comfortable. They cannot get the bit above, you know, under their tongue or above their tongue, above it or below it, or, I mean, really? This horse has 2 nose bands, 2 different halters, all this crap on its face, and it's still just trying to, I mean, if you have to strap something in your animal's mouth to keep them and tie their mouth shut around it to keep them from spitting it out or getting comfortable with it, then there's something wrong. But sadly, this is so normal in the horse world, just like in the dog world, with all the prong and e-collars and all the nonsense. I mean, it's so normal, just like in the dog world, with all of this nonsense, especially in sports or service animals, God forbid, you know, and people say, oh, I just use it to communicate with the dog. You're not communicating anything to the dog other than you will do this because you're the slave and I'm the slave driver. I'm the master and you're going to do this regardless. And all you do is show your ignorance. So anyway, that was just, you know, I thought that was interesting that, you know, they brought up the point of the, you know, different types of you know, bits and such for horses and the severity of it. And they related it a lot to, you know, dogs. The same thing as well. You know, when one doesn't work, let's just get bigger bit, harsher bit, you know, leverage bit. Let's get more prong collars, get more collars on the dog. We'll have, you know, 5 or 10 collars on this dog. Higher electricity, just ridiculous. So that's my take on it. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you got something from this. Let me know what you think about the items we use, to control equines and canines and such. Let me know what you think about that. In the meantime, though, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Go say hello to your little critters. Say how to do for me. Give them some kind of loving. And until next time, stay positive.